Say what you got to say. Say what you got to say. I'm ready.
Sunk in pretty bad down that section out of it. Worse, I didn't know if you might move right on. I think it crosses down there close to Lamar, but I don't know how it runs exactly.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not, that, you don't like at the end of the road. I got that one minute, yeah, out there.
But you know, they put railroad before, you may just have to get some of that railroad rock out in here. But other guys,
It holds up on there, it won't smash down.
they won't wash.
Sir, you're getting water all over the floor.
Did I squeeze my water bottle?
Yeah, you take,
Well, it's not broke, it's, I mean,
no, you was
the
squeezing
cap
and
was a little
taking
bit
your
loose
coat
on it,
off.
I think.
But y'all be careful coming out of there.
He's been doing that in the door too. Hey, walk over this way. He ain't got a wall.
I don't know, Tim, they probably are.
I see it. I see it. Good evening, everyone. Barbara, watch your water.
Yeah.
I just your water.
Yeah.
That's all. I just text you.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm doing well. I was trying to, send some information to somebody. You know, what's in the house.
The young nut was,
Yes.
also scheduled for
I
5:30.
changed it to school out there. Come on, really?
They were scheduled for 5:30. Yeah, I think.
And George sent me out yesterday.
All right, let's keep going, because we got a lot of stuff to cover in an hour. Call this, workshop to order. The first item and, one of two items that we're gonna cover tonight is the city's insurance. Our insurance policy with, Alabama Municipal Insurance Corporation is due by the end of the month. Actually, I think it's the 28th or 29th. We received notification from AMIC that our policy, the cost would be $294,691 if we took a 2% discount and basically renewed the policy for 3 years. If not, and we did a 1-year renewal, it would be $300,545. That is up from the roughly $256,000 that we paid last year. I talked to the president Friday, and I asked him why it went up that much. That's a big jump, To me it is, you know, it may not be to others, but that's a big jump. He told me that the reason that there was such a jump is we grew the police department. He said from, I guess, the prior 3 years that we had listed 16 police officers, and we now are at 25. He said that 75% of that premium increase was due to that. Well, I don't know where that 16 number came from. I don't know, but anyway, that's what it is. Luckily, we had, Mr. Allen was here. I really don't know why he come, to be honest with you, but I guess it was a blessing that he did. Because he works for Travelers, and he started quoting us, some prices, and we got to talking. He presented a proposal to the city, and he's here, and I'm gonna let him talk about it. And I have a couple of questions for him, which I think he probably knows. I'm gonna ask him some questions. But his proposal is $226,162. That is without the fire department. the fire department, I think I brought it up at a previous council meeting. We had a gentleman come in here that represented the volunteer, I'll find it in a minute, the volunteer fire insurance services, that basically told us that they could offer us more coverage than what Amic did. And I asked, Jim Chandler with Amic, just point blank, tell me the truth, and he was honest, and he said, yes, it's better insurance than what we offer. We did find out in discussing the VFIS and what Amic had, fire department, a lot of their equipment was not covered. Basically, if they had lost more than 1.5 air packs, there wasn't no insurance on it. And that was just really one item, and truthfully, VFIS picked up on that. I didn't know it. There was just no way to follow the inventory list that Amic had on the fire department. Another thing that VFIS brought up, and I think I may have told you, we have volunteer firemen. They're responding to calls in their personal vehicles. They're using their personal cell phones. They're wear glasses, their eyeglasses. It covers all that stuff. It appears to be better coverage, way better coverage than what Amic had. And we can ask Mr. Allen about comparable to Travelers, because I didn't. I don't think I did. I talked to the fire chief, and he's sitting in here, and I think we ought to ask him, what's your feelings on VFIS?
Well, at the point to what VFIS is offering compared to what we had, it just sounds better to me to go to VFIS, because I think they cover fire department.
Their submitted cost is $14,257. The Amic, as soon as I find it, their cost for the fire insurance part is $14,239. So it's a few dollars different, but it sure does sound like it's a lot more coverage. Mr. Allen, I hate putting you on the spot, but, I believe in being honest, and is BFIS good insurance?
Yes. I talked to Gil Jackson several times over the last few weeks that you and I talked there. And Adam, he said that he's had many cities that took that and took the rest of the stuff for Travelers. So we don't really carry the wood. We don't have a dog at that hunt. I talked to the owner of our particular agency that I'm at in Birmingham, and he said, well, did you know we have them as one of our companies? We got over 100 companies we represent. I said, no, I didn't know we represented them, because I've done all of mine through Travelers, with the exception of, and we'll get into that in a minute, you and I haven't talked recently about the cyber coverage. That's with a separate company. What I've discovered, y'all, is this, that Travelers is really good at 99% of the thing. The only thing I don't like that they're not as good at is the companies that specialize in cyber coverage. Now, Amic will offer you $100,000 on cyber. I'm offering $1 million, because, and it includes ransomware. $100,000 is not, well, I should say nothing. It's not enough, okay? If somebody comes after you and they want to ransom and they've got dates of birth or social security numbers, whatever you got with your records, they get into your computers, they're gonna nail you pretty good. That's what's recently happened to a hospital I talked to in Huntsville, and I know they had the company that has Ticketmaster, where you buy your tickets and you don't go to the theater and watch a performer. They got nailed really big on that. So, and there's a couple of cities that I've heard of it that have gotten hit in the last few years there. So I really like what I hear about that. I've never gone against this fire company. I've got cities like that I've personally written the last 5 or 6 years of Jacksonville. I've got Centerville. I've got Brighton. I've got Addison, West Washington. There's a bunch of cities that I've written. Most of these were with Amic. I've had 3 cities in the last 5 years that I've written that were with Amic more than 30 years. And they changed and went with me. I kept every one of them. Now, I will tell you this, because I asked if it was okay to just mention this, and they said, yeah. One of the cities that I have is Jacksonville. And when I wrote Jacksonville, they'd had some increases with Amic, and I've gotten permission to at least, that's the only one I'll talk about, because I've already asked if I could at least bring this up without getting everybody mad at me. But what they had was some sizable increases. They asked me to come in, we did the job, we got it, and they had a new administration. So in December, they called me and said, we just want you to know as a courtesy that we're gonna get a quote from Amic. And I said, okay, so they did, and they'd had it before. But I came in significantly lower, so they stayed with me, and I don't think they'll go back to them for what, anyway, numerous things. But I've met with them, they're happy. You asked me a question, the last week, Adam, you asked me, well, how have the increases been once somebody comes with you? I got one city in yesterday and one in today. Both of them had a 3% increase. They can live with 3%. I've already talked to the mayors, don't like it. But on one of them, it had a 1% increase, but we added 5 vehicles. If you calculate that in, it's like a 3% increase. So I can live with that. My cities have been living with it. So who knows where the future is? I've had one city where we have a $3.7 million reserve right now on claim. I heard it was settled yesterday, but I don't know what for. I think it's over $1 million. You might be interested to know our policy reads this: if your city is obligated to pay a claim, ours reads we'll pay. You know what the judge says you're obligated to pay. I love that word, obligated to pay, because they're. I wish I knew who had written Birmingham, but in the year 2020, I read about a lawsuit there, and there was a police car went through, and of course there was people injured, and the judge awarded $3.2 million. I don't know who their carrier was, but their carrier, because of tort law, paid you got $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident in Alabama. Their insurance carrier paid $300,000, walked away from it. I talked to the head of our region, my good friend Gil Jackson. He said, Alan, we would pay whatever the judge said if we had that many in the limits. So what I did is I've come over here to get an insurance, just enough by everybody else. I've got $3 million more property than they've got. They had like 26 point something million. I had like 29 point something million. So I've got $3 million more in property coverage than they've got. Unless they changed it, and I don't know about that, because I haven't seen their renewal. You haven't let me, I wouldn't have let me, you know what I mean? We're just, and you need to know that, another thing in my quote, I've waived the co-insurance clause. I'm just give you an example of that, because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna throw this at you. If you had let's say you had 500,000 in one of your buildings, and I brought my wife over here last year, we spent 3 days going through your buildings, measuring them, talking to people, seeing how old they were, and getting things in line in case we were to write abuse coverage. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I can show you in writing here in a second. But if you take a $500,000 building, and the formula is for, what Amic writes is a little different policy. I don't like the way they write it, because it can hurt a city if you have a claim, a major claim. If you have a big one, with them and with us, and you had 500,000 in a building, we're gonna pay 500,000, you'll be fine. But where you run into a co-insurance penalty is when you have a partial loss. So I use example, if you have 500,000 on a building, what they would say, they would take the 500,000, and then they say the adjuster for Amic will come out, or if I had Travelers, he's gonna come out. He's gonna say, well, what's that building worth? Or what you should have had on it with inflation and with building costs being higher. And if you're short, you have 100% co-insurance penalty in your policy, because I'll show you from last year. I'm sure you have it this year. All that means is, let's say that it took 700,000 to rebuild it, and you had 500,000 on it. You take 500,000 divided by, this is really important, y'all, so I'm gonna spend a second on it. All right, I hate it when my calculator's messing up, it's the person with it. It's amounting, if you take 500 divided by 700 times the amount of loss, let's say you had a $200,000 loss, I think it was like 130 something, 140 something $1,000. That's your penalty, because they say they're 100% co-insurance. We waive all my cities. I've gone to a lot of trouble, and people didn't know me, and my wife was a certified appraiser, so I said, come on, Connie, we're going over here, my wife and just does it to help me out as her husband. But we took the time last year, and we've got that, we spent some time looking at your situation, and we felt comfortable with it. I have a city that we just offered 100,000 per person, of 200,000 aggregate for sexual abuse. That's all we were gonna offer. I didn't write that city, it's the first one I missed in many years. But I found out in talking with the mayor, and anyway, I'll get next year. We've already cleared up some things that we're not clear on. But to me, you need to have the coverages in line with what's out there. And we will make sure you don't have a co-insurance, but we have no way of having a penalty with it. So if you have a loss, we're gonna pay whatever those limits are up to the 29 million that we've got total on that. So we cover earthquake and flood. I didn't see that in your AMIC policy. We've got $1 million on earthquake, $1 million on flood. That's the only big deductible you got. On that, you have a $50,000 deductible. But I think 50,000 is better than losing $1 million if you had earthquake. So we got some coverage there. It's probably better if I go through and just look at it. I think I've got the vehicles right. You and I talked so many times about that.
Yeah, Alan, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
All right, it's on page 15.
The new proposal?
Yes, the one you sent today. All right, this is in the miscellaneous property coverage, it's on page 15.
Okay.
All right, you were talking about the co-insurance. All right,
Yep.
just so we understand this.
Yep.
What is considered miscellaneous property?
Very good question. I've never been answered. They listed here things like fire protective systems
Okay,
and newly acquired property. It's kind of like I had a call last week from Jacksonville. They said, we want to know how do we cover this, because we don't have coverage on it now. And it was a piece of equipment, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was now, that was not scheduled, but we have unscheduled equipment in there as well at $50,000. Just so happened that piece of property was $49,000 and something dollars. So my underwriter says, all right, I've just added it. And he said, even if you hadn't called me, they had coverage for it. So newly acquired property. Also, there's another thing, before I forget it, I want to mention. If y'all do a bond issue, if y'all do any kind of expansion for your city, AMIC the rating 2 years ago dropped from an A to B++. Travelers is A++, one of maybe 12 or 15 or 20 companies in the United States that have the A++ rating. And sometimes you'll run into an issue where they'll say, your bonding company want to know, wait a minute, who's your insurance with, are they A-rated, this sort of thing. I don't think that should enter into your final thinking, but I like to throw it out there because we've got an A++, and I love that. Travelers writes more cities than anybody else in the United States. We write just more of them, you know. I think we've got 75 or 80 in Alabama. I think AMIC, since they're there, I think in Montgomery, I guess is where they're at. They've got over 400 cities. They do a good job. But the other issue I think we're gonna run into, since we're spread out so well, that's a good thing, because you've got the Gulf Coast and you got windstorms in West Alabama. They're now the worst in the United States the last 10 years straight. I'm sorry, Adam, go ahead. I know you were asking me that. I'm trying to,
no, so.
I don't know if I can specifically accept what they put down there, but we got some extra coverage there.
So trying to go through these policies, basically AMIC has a $5,000 deductible, Travelers has a $5,000 deductible. Now, there are two places in here where Travelers does have an 80% co-insurance, and that's on rented equipment
Exactly.
and rented or leased. And,
They have 100%, when we look at it, that means we're better. That means You can have a penalty on that particular one section, but on your buildings, there's no chance of a penalty, okay? No problem, but only on that item there.
I'm not real sure, but I do know that, Amanda had called Amic about that, and they said that they have a different determination than you do. They don't, they're saying they don't have.
Then they would have to, well, maybe somewhere in their policy, and that's fine,
Yeah.
and I apologize if I'm.
Yeah, no,
wrong on
no,
that,
it
but
just, it may be the way that, you know.
their form might be a little
companies
different in
read
that
it.
area.
But just to let y'all know, this is how it breaks down. If you go with, Amic, $294,691. And if you pull out the fire department, your cost is going to be $294,689. If we guarantee them 3 years. Travelers is $226,162. Then if you added the cyber policy that he was just talking about, that's $10,421. So that would be and then adding back in, I'm trying to get all my figures right, y'all, this is a nightmare. Then you add back in if you went with VFIS, the total is $250,840. Switching to these two companies, you would save $43,849.
Say that figure again, please.
$43,849.
We also have a $1 million umbrella that I don't want to forget about, that goes on top of every other liability coverage. They have a limit of it's probably still in there, Adam, that 4 million. The most they're gonna pay in any 1 year is $4 million for all claims combined. That's auto and general liability, public entity liability, all those things.
Yeah.
We have it per policy, we've got our limit plus the 1 million on top.
I will say this, I've been here since the 80s. And to my knowledge, we've always, AMIC was formed because Mayor Bonner was the president of the League of Municipalities when it was formed. They've been good to us. I've used them several times over my years as police chief and police officer. $300,000 is a lot of money. And at the rate, if you keep adding it up, at what the increase seems to be, I don't know that it's gonna be sustainable. That's just my personal opinion on it, and I hate it because, I know a good many people down there, but, the president down there asked me to send them the traveler's policy. I did not do that. They did have plans to have a representative here tonight, but he sent me an email and it's in his file somewhere. He is sick and couldn't come. But we're gonna have to make a move on this at this council meeting tonight because our time is up. The bill will be due at the end of the month.
I promise you, sir. I hope you called him. I asked him, I gave us some of the city clerks and mayors, and I said, call everyone. And that's why I haven't lost any. I plugged you to death, and
I did.
I mean-
I called and talked to the city clerk of Jacksonville, very nice lady. I talked to several of the cities, and yes, they said they've had good service from travelers. Now, let me go back to VFIS. I need to make sure that I tell you this. When we get to council meeting, I'm gonna ask for a motion. I am not going to vote. VFIS is part of this, I can't even think of his name, but, the Strock Insurance Agency. I have a relative that works for Strock's Insurance Agency, and I will not vote on it. I'm just telling you that up front. They didn't, it has nothing to do with my relative, but I'm not gonna vote on it because of it, just so everybody up here knows that.
So the VFIS, is that a part of Travelers or that's separate? No.
It's separate.
So we're talking about changing from Amic and to consider Travelers. And is the wrestle our history and loyalty to Amic? I'm trying to, we've been with Amic a long time, I gather.
We have, many years.
Or it sounds as though you, when you talk about loyalty, but we're talking about saving money and probably getting better service and better benefits, for lack of a better term.
You're right, you know, we're in a position up here to manage the taxpayers' money as best we can.
The only other thing I would add, maybe that's important, is that I deliver all my renewals at least 3 weeks before it be used. In case somebody gets mad, said Alan is ugly and I'm going somewhere, I wanna give you a chance. If I was too high, I think it's courteous to come in 3 weeks ahead of time.
It is.
And I do that with all my accounts. It's just the way I've always done it, because I think they respect me for doing that. But I think that's important. So if I've got a better price and better coverage, and I think better service, I can't offer anything except that I go to church all the time, but that doesn't matter to some cities, but I really believe in that. I'm just an old honest guy.
Alan, we did our insurance through the airport with you.
You did.
You came.
What I did on that, I didn't want any commission, I just felt like you should have it. So I called a friend of mine that owns an agency in Jasper, and all she writes is airports. And I think she charged like $1,100 for $1 million, whatever it was. But she said, yeah, and I've got some other cities, because Travelers will not run an airport. They don't want food in the airport, they don't want a lot of Bluefield in the airport. Knowing that, I couldn't in good conscience just leave you, even if I never wrote you. So I called her, I said, will you take care of these people? And I don't want a thing, just do it. So it means anything, just doing something just because it's the right thing, I did. And until you mentioned it, I really kind of forgotten about it. But and she said, well, I'll build you up. And I said, no, I gotta do it on my own. I said, I've earned it, I get it. But I think I've earned it. I've done a good job. I like the pricing. I like my underwriter, and they said they'll work with you all year long. So, you know, I'm gonna, the only question I've got, we've changed vehicles so many times. If we're off 1 or 2 vehicles after you and I changed that thing, 3 times? Don't shoot me, because I'll make it work. That
We're
is
not, it's right, I looked.
Okay.
It's
Well,
right.
that was, she said, am I gonna have to do it a 4th time? And I said, no, Don, you're not gonna do it. And, anyway, we've got,
I think you got it, I think you got all the property, I think everything in the policy is listed.
you've read every, I know,
I've read every page.
and I've answered every question that I know of. Every now and then I'll get hit one, nobody's asked me, so, but I've been doing this almost 50 years, so I'm dangerous, I know what I'm doing, sort of, but, you know.
I got a question about the cyber.
Yeah.
Part, you said it was $10,000?
Yep.
For the insurance?
Yeah,
Now, I know we have an IT guy, or we have an IT company.
Okay.
Do you know if they offer any kind of,
They might, but a lot of times they don't like to write the coverages, because in fact, I've got some extra copies of the side somewhere here. I think.
I don't know how much that
Well,
is.
bear with me.
I'm just curious if our IT company
I don't,
would
they
think
might.
that this was a good thing or not good, don't need
It's
it.
not-
I mean, yeah, I would think it would be a good thing, but they're only, like, they can only do so much on the security side. Like, there's still, if somebody sends a phishing email and an employee clicks on it and they get into the system and things like that, I mean, they do what they can to prevent that, but they can't always.
Or if
That's what I
somebody,
need to know.
or if somebody gets our information and hold it for ransom, then that's what we're talking about, the problem we would run into.
I talked with, and you're gonna laugh at the name of it, I'm almost embarrassed to say the name of this insurance company. It's called Cowbell. And whoever in the world ever heard of cowbell insurance, but they're big, and
Well,
they know what they're doing. And what they, and Adam, you have it there, but $1 million worth of coverage, and if you look at it, it's not just for the ransomware, it's a bunch of others, you know. It could, and I don't even know all the definitions, that's a new coverage that I've written it for the last 3 or 4 years, but it's so new, I said, you read the definition of this, but I can't explain all those things. I bet, man, probably know, but I can't, I don't know what to say on that. It's got all the definitions, but every city that we propose it to that had Emmett went with that also. I'll just say that because I talked to the IT guy at Jacksonville the other day, and we had some things because theirs is pretty good size for what they took. But you know, we make sure we keep up with it, and our people will talk to the IT people. I'm talking about cowbell. After we write it, get ready for some phone calls. They'll say, well, who's your IT person? They'll call and make sure we got the safeguards like multi-factor. I can't say that word. Multi-factor authentication, which is very important. There'll be things they'll ask you to do, they won't require it, because we've given a price and we'll honor that. But they'll give you some things that I might could even reduce it next year. I try to do, I have one city that did everything I asked, and I hate to say this because y'all hold it against me, I'm gonna say it anyway. And I'm gonna name them. But I had a $50,000 reduction. We asked them to do some things and they did it. And I can't always do that, but part of it was I asked the city, the police chief and I were kind of at odds because he wanted more brochures and all. And I met with him the other day, and when we finished, he said, well, I'm buying you lunch next time you come. So whatever I did wrong, I've done right. I made sure we made it right with that particular police chief. So we've got a lot to offer.
Anybody have any more questions? It's just a big subject and it's hard to cover in 30 minutes.
But you're talking savings to me, so that's.
Yeah, we're talking about quite a bit of savings.
Yes,
For equitable or better service.
yes.
He checked me out up on when I talked to several mayors and city clerks, oh yeah, I got a problem. Okay.
Mayor, if I could ask a question. He was talking about you had to have certain criteria for the cyber insurance for them to really be effective as little or more as they can. How much would it cost the city to put all those particular things in place for the cyber insurance to be valid?
We've offered it right now, not even knowing all that you've gotten, because they write a lot of cities and then they'll say, well, let's call the IT person, we'll make some recommendations, and some they accept, some they don't. But a year later, sometimes I'll have them come a little lower than they were the previous year, sometimes a slight increase. I got one city that liked it so much that instead of $1 million, they took $2 million this year. So, you know, but cowbell easy to work with. I've got 2 ladies I talked with. I know you got other. I'm not watching the mayors. I haven't heard.
Yeah, we
I didn't mean to take this long. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, you're fine. But thank you, Alan, for coming. And we do have Harmon Engineering to make the presentation. So
Sure. Well, I'll
we'll address this at the 6 o'clock.
tonight. Well, I appreciate it. If you'll check with me or whatever. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Alan.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome to hang around.
I'm tempted to hang around for the vote, but
That's fine. That's fine.
let me just come back. I'm gonna go
Yes,
give
sir.
me one more cup of coffee, and if I may come back, would I be allowed to do that?
Yes, sir, you sure will.
Thank you.
Harmon Engineering's got a presentation to make to it. Hi, gentlemen.
How are y'all?
Good, how are y'all?
We just wanted to bring forward some of the projects we're working on with y'all currently. You know, we got a fairly new council that's not really familiar with us. We want to change that.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Active projects we have going on right now, you wanna start with the paving?
Yeah, I know you can start with yours and then start mine, but I could start.
You wanna
with
hit
that.
the paving?
But really, main projects that I have going on right now, paving projects, obviously, which that's kind of coming to a close, getting close to finishing up. I think the striping crew is starting sometime this week. You know, it'll probably take them a couple of weeks to get everything striped. We're also striping some extra roads that weren't in the paving project, but just some other roads throughout town that we're striping. So once they get that done, we'll be finished up with that. And, you know, so far it looks like we're on budget and, you know, everything as far as that's gonna come out all right. So I'm pleased with that, how that's going.
What was the original budget for that paving project?
Well, originally, I think we had budgeted like 1.5, 1.5, something like that. That was for all the paving, storm drain work.
Sports Drive.
Yeah, storm drain work we did on Sports Drive, concrete work that we did on, right there around the stadium, curb and gutter and all that we put in, so. And it looks like we're gonna be coming out right about that number, so.
That's good.
Worked out well. And then, other than that, I'm currently working on the sidewalk project that is the TAP grant through AlDOT. We're in the design phase, and the locations, if y'all are familiar, they include College Street, starting at Avenue A, and then going towards the school and finishing at West Point Street. And then we're doing Lafette and West Point Street, starting on Lafette Street at the intersection with, I think, Guy, like right there behind the school, and then going through the Y and going up towards Chestnut. And then we're doing, Chestnut Street, starting at Seymour, and then going up to Gulf Street, it's like close to the railroad tracks. What is that? I just kind of brought these are not our construction plans, but these are what we had submitted for the grant approval. I'll leave them here if y'all wanna look at them, they're just kind of visual aids to get an idea of kind of where we're gonna be running sidewalk through. But working on that, design is going well, and, you know, just looking to improve pedestrian safety. You know, we removed some of these trees on College Street and right out here, the one on West Point, we removed that tree right there just to help with sidewalks and, you know, get a better clearance from the road and not having to worry about some of those large trees, that buckle up the sidewalk where people can't walk over them or ride a bike or whatever. So.
Really pushing for the ADA compliance and a huge push for that in a lot of areas.
Yeah,
So make sure that we're trying to bring that to the table too.
Yeah, improve safety with better sidewalks and dedicated crossings with signage and all that stuff, so.
Now, was the 1.5 million included, was that the site, that's the?
No, sir, that's a different project, it's through the, Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP grant with AlDOT, and it's a, total budget for that project is $1 million. That's construction, fees, everything combined, it's a 80-20 match.
80-20.
So we're in the design phase right now, and hopefully about sometime this spring or early summer, we'll have a set of plans ready to bid out for that job. But yeah, that's all I got. We've, as I'll just say, we've enjoyed working in Roanoke and getting to learn the city and meet and, you know, get to know the people, and so look forward to, you know, meeting the new council members and continuing the progress we've made so far.
The first project I have right now is the CBDG, grant that y'all have with Mr. Terry Acuff, working on Cannon Street and Mulberry Street. This is an active project right now, I'm sure most of you know. We're working down the storm drain, all the underground utilities have been installed. We're working on curb and gutter, trying to re-edge some of these streets to contain the water. We had a pretty good washing on the south side of Mulberry Street, just because the water's not contained, it was not there. So the need for it's definitely there. So that's done, we're hoping Hudman, Construction gets in with the concrete guy this week to start putting down the curb and gutter, along both streets. We've got Cannon Street, all the underground done there as well. We fixed the section of Woodlawn that was collapsing. It was amazing when he finally pulled that off. Rough estimate for 40 to 45 cubic yards of fill material to fill that void space. I really want to run these balls. So I'm glad we got that called and got that fixed under this same project. So I'm hoping they'll be in this week. We've got, we've had some rain delays and some of that, but they're working on it. We're trying to get those inlets fixed and get the curb and gutter tied in. So that's what we got with CBDG. The other thing I wanted to come talk about was the C&D landfill. We opened the last sale that's currently open, we opened in August of 22. And Mr. Keith's been kind of sparingly putting stuff in it while we were working through the permit process since 2022. So we finally got approval on an expansion of the landfill. The existing triangle that it resides in sits on top of some C&D that was put in while the sanitary landfill just south of this was open. So you've really run out of space in what was existing. So we permitted another 5 trenches to keep moving towards kind of the wood storage area and the borrow pit to open up quite a bit of volume for your C&D moving forward. So we have the permit in hand, it's been signed and approved by ADM. We've got all the paperwork to back that up. We'll get this posted out there. And then we can finish filling 6A and 6B. We have kind of 2 halves of a trench in current use. And then we'll be prepared to file to open trench number 7 when we kind of get 6A and 6B filled up. What do you think? You got a rough idea when you can fill that?
Won't take long.
It won't take long.
Won't take long.
So we can go ahead and get a proposal to y'all to activate trench number 7. We did some borings out there, some digging to see what materials below this you can't dig back into active trash. So there's a little bit of area in this section we can undercut to generate some more volume. The other thing that opening these new trenches did was it's gonna give us a little bit more volume on top of 6A and 6B. So we can kind of keep it open and open number 7 and start working our way across to a new volume that's higher than where you were gonna originally have to close 5 and 6. One thing I definitely wanna note, in this permit that got submitted, there is a final closure plan for how the landfill will have to be maintained when it's completely finished. So if, say y'all decided you didn't wanna take C&D anymore and you were done with this, there is an active plan that ADM is going to enforce on closing this. There's 18 inches of impervious that's gotta be put on top of all trash and 6 inches of topsoil, and it's gotta be stabilized. And once you say we're not taking any more C&D, we're going into closure, you have a very fixed timeline to do this. And this particular site has a real black eye from the 90s. The original closure of the sanitary landfill did not go well. There's all kinds of stuff in ADM records and in their reports that it was way behind schedule and took too long. And then people have apparently still around that remember that. One of the guys at AGM I talked to was like, oh, yeah, I know where you're talking about. We spent a bunch of time there in the nineties. So, this is something I want y'all to be prepared for. If we go into closure, we have a plan put together, and once this landfill is full, we have a plan put together for closure.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
All right, with what you have proposed there, or what you've got drawn out, how long, and I know it's just an estimate, how long is that gonna last?
When we originally were doing the volume, talking about what y'all were intaking, kind of rough averages, and we're in the 20-25 year range. But it really depends on the volume you take. I mean, you're permitted to take 1,000 yards a day and we'll fill it up in 3 months. But that's not the kind of volume y'all been seeing historically. Now, we had to take some averages and some times that y'all were taking and not taking. That's an educated guess.
Oh, you
I know.
did great when you said 20 or 25 years, that's.
As long as we're not taking huge volumes of odd stuff, your mattresses and stuff like that, they're hard to compact. I mean, you gotta take some stuff like that, but that was kind of what we were working towards, and that's based on rough volumes historically.
Sure.
But if you decided to close it at whatever time, you better have about $1 million or so to
We were in
spend.
the $400,000 to $500,000 range to do proper closing.
Right, and then, but if it goes 20 more years, it's gonna go.
Probably will be.
$1 million.
Probably will be.
Oh yeah, it'll climb. And I mean, the stabilization and the material you have to cap with is very specific. You'll have to hire a geotechnical engineer, and they'll have to come out, and I mean, that's assuming our dirt source on this piece of property is good. If you start importing fill, it drives that number up. So, this is something, I tell you that to tell you, I don't know how the funding with this works, but if there's money to be set aside, this is something to be prepared for. For some reason, if y'all ever go into closure, I wanna say you have 90 days to complete this cap. And it'll be a serious undertaking. But we've got this active, 6A and 6B are active, and we're ready to open 7. I'll write Mr. Keith a proposal. I was gonna bring it with me, and I wasn't sure how much time he needed in 6A, 6B. But we'll go ahead and get the process started of opening, getting number 7 ready to be opened and laid out. And then, like I said, we can keep working. When we come out to do that, we'll figure out what else we can put on 6A and 6B and kind of cap them all where they belong. And then start rising up. And we had some pretty significant depths that we could add trash onto your existing, and then we can, once we do that, your slope where we can move backwards, as long as ADM will let us, and put a little more fill on top of some of the existing spaces and maximize the area you're using for this landfill. I assume opening the next trench is something y'all are interested in. All right, the last thing I've got is we're trying to kind of stay on top of our billings and don't want y'all to be blindsided by anything. I have a list of our standard rate, standard time and material stuff from an engineering side and from a construction side. I'm gonna put this in a proposal form. I'm gonna leave this with y'all. I'm gonna put this in a proposal form. We want something on file with y'all so you're not blindsided by anything we do, especially on a whim, on a time and materials basis. We're doing this with all of our cities and some of our really good clients. I'd rather write proposals, but I'd rather you have this in case there's something you keep telling me at midnight, hey, I need you on your way to Roanoke. So at least we're all on the same page. I'm gonna leave this with y'all, and y'all can talk about this, and I'm gonna put this in a proposal form for somebody to sign or discuss, if that's good with y'all. Do y'all have any questions for us?
I have a stupid question. Anything that we can do to make the landfill better? Is that a stupid question?
No, absolutely not. Maintenance is everything. They come do random inspections, keeping the dirt, keeping everything covered, keeping it from washing. Maintenance is everything in that world. And when we do the layout, we'll go ahead and structure the next cell and the bill, and they'll have all that information. And as they work into it, that's great. And then keeping keeping the trash compacted, I see more of that than anything. Keeping the trash down and keeping it covered is the violation they're looking for. And just, I mean, just good maintenance, keeping it mowed once or twice a year so you can see if stuff's trying to get away from you. That's the other big complaint that we have out of some other landfills is their neighbors calling, hey, there's a McDonald's bag in my yard. There's a McDonald's, and that gives them a reason to call again.
Household garbage.
Yes, ma'am.
I can tell you, I've been out there, I went out there with Keith. I know it's a landfill, but it looks good.
Yes,
It
it
looks
does.
very
It
well
looks great compared to a
maintained.
lot of places we do.
That green grass and stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks.
And what you accept too, and we've talked about mattresses and tires and that kind of stuff, if you have other options, a little bit of legwork on the front end will save you a lot in the long run. I know y'all have some roll-offs and that kind of stuff that you do. I think that's a very good thing.
So you think the roll-offs were a good choice for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just for those, I mean, you can probably scale back significantly what you're doing with that, in my opinion. But mattresses and tires do not compress well. They never have.
We don't take tires anyway. do we?
We don't take tires, but you know,
You can per this permit,
Yeah,
but
we don't wanna get into that.
I don't think you wanna get into that.
have them thrown to the top.
We've done 3 or 4 cleanups of tire areas and it is a hassle. They were all illegally dumped, but they're still a hassle.
I know, some places, like, I guess maybe recycle tire, turn it into like a mulch type thing, but look, do you know a lot about that?
No, man.
Oh, okay.
I've got one guy we buy tires, he recycles for me. I have no idea where he gets it from.
Okay.
Not in my wheelhouse.
Okay.
So whatever.
Thank you for all
One
you
other
do.
thing I was gonna say that I forgot was, a lot of these projects, paving project, the storm drain project, we've had, I'd say, a good bit of success with grant funding for some of these, like we did, a couple years ago, we did Franklin Road, and all those roads over there, that was funded with CDBG, and then some of that as well, and then storm drain this year, CDBG, TAP grant, and I'd say this is a pretty good success with using Mr. Terry Acuff. He's been really good, he's good at what he does, so I just wanted to bring that up.
We like him so much, I tried to get him to come to Lafayette and he won't. It's too far south for him. I can't say enough good things about them for sure. All right, thank y'all.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you. I will tell y'all too, they took me on a ride last week, we went around to all the projects they got. They're making a lot of headway. That over on Mulberry Street, right after the heavy rain, that was a mess.
That was a mess, yes, sir.
They are definitely working on it. It's impressive.
I saw all the work on Avenue A and Cannon over in that area too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Got a call, today from over there, wanting to know if they were finished, and we told them no.
Not yet.
It was one of the property owners over there. Rick wasn't complaining, just.
We've had 1 or 2, they've run over a mailbox or 2 and some of that, and we'll close all that out. The areas we've disturbed are gonna be sodded when we're done, so we're gonna leave it better than we found it for sure. And we're gonna hold their feet to the fire, I want it to look like my yard when they leave.
Appreciate that. And I know the residents up there appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you help us with Main Street and cleaning up that ice water that's up there that all that red mud washed away the other night in that torrential rain up there where that station complaining about?
I'll look at it.
So that's awful.
Where about?
That new station that's
Oh,
sitting
South
there.
Street.
Yeah, beside the elephant.
Yeah,
Awful.
that's
All
a
right, we'll look
mess.
at it, no problem.
That's a real mess.
It is a mess. And when we had all that red clay just went.
Property owner, yeah. That's the property owner, that's the property.
still, the last I heard.
They're not doing much.
We can write a recommendation that we drafted, and we did one for the wall deal below Saturday Street, and it has since fell over. So
We may need you at some point to do that seriously.
we'll
if
be
they're
up
not
here
gonna do
the
it.
next couple days, I'll go get it.
Just set your eyes on it, just as you write about it. It's awful. And I don't know what drill hole do, did you ever know? Is it the tanks under the ground? No? Okay.
State Farm.
State Farm. Well, they need to come out and plant some grass at least while they're waiting to get the building done to keep the.
We'll write your recommendation. I'll look at it.
Huh?
I said, I don't know why they did all that concrete, that's
I
happening.
know, that's,
We
yeah.
just go ahead and pour some new concrete.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's a mess. And we gotta get some more rain.
Notice all that concrete.
Thank y'all.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right, that concludes the workshop. You had a good day. I didn't tell you, you did a great job.
She sure did. She loves him. Awesomeness is done.
If everybody is good out of all the day yesterday.
Right, something wrong with them.
But they don't want to be named.
Yes, that's it.
Don't want to be
Don't
named.
want.
Because they were swearing.
They gotta come to their.
That's why Jim says,
No engine blocks.
Yeah.
It would make
That's all mental. Because when you're young and you're starting out, I can't imagine being married that long.
If I did something, they got it.
And I would have seen her when they used to get one said they tried to do
Oh,
anything.
rental, yeah.
I tell you.
Already.
We do, I mean, that's. A lot of USD work, high school.
Bills.
It's something.
Decade.
You can
You
listen to it
either
all.
ebb and flow with it and accept the changes, or you sit.
The
same thing that.
Well, that's one of my feelings. Even though it's that crap.
No, he took, what's his name, show? Isn't that where he was at?
Huh? Yes, I went over.
wanna go with that?
Send it to my email, she needs to be monitoring it like we did it for the computer in my inbox. We'll just have to send it back. Rita is right there, and Shayna is
Try coming out the here.
stay right there where I'm at. Like, call it, I can simple, and they may be able to fix it where y'all. Oh, yeah, you can run your thing.
Yeah.
I would say over there, that's the same.
All the hills you come down.
Yeah.
Stay right there. I know it was right. Traffic fence is yeah, get out, then, fire department, get them out. Somebody will.
The way they saw. Again, it'll be a big.
Need some cold.
This whole country. About 15,000 gallon gas, 2,000 gas.
It
Anyway,
is
if you had been to breakfast, I'm gonna go to
Okay, we're gonna call this, council meeting. Ms. Barber is going to do our pledge, and Ms. Rita is gonna do our prayer.
Attention, salute, and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight and we open this meeting up. We invite you in, dear Father. We ask for your direction. We ask that you would lay on our hearts the things that really need. Better yet, dear Father, a city that your light shines and not anyone else. Forgive us of our sins. Go with us through this meeting. Help it be a productive meeting. And we love you, dear Father, in Christ's name. Amen.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at your minutes from the, council meeting on January the 5th?
I read them, and it says, Councilmember Holly stated, thank you, that's about all I had, and I was not in attendance at that meeting.
Okay.
Was that supposed to say Councilmember Henderson?
I'm thinking that, I think it's for this.
Any corrections to the minutes? All right, with the, correction that, Councilmember Holly brought, with that, accept them with the correction.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the minutes with the correction of page 9.
Do I have a second?
I second.
It's okay.
Abstain.
Councilmember Henderson? Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Now, with the minutes approved, we're gonna go to some old business, and I'm afraid this is gonna be short. We talked about the AEDs for the city buildings and council meeting. I had the opportunity to open my computer and look at that one time, and that's it. I just have not had an opportunity to do it, so bear with me, and I will try to get that done before the next council meeting. Any other old business that anybody would like to bring before the council? All right, we're going on to some new business. Sometimes when we're sitting up here, sometimes tough issues. And this next issue, people have varying opinions on, and that's okay. That's what makes this country great. City is our alcohol ordinance, specifically the section marker out of it. But it's the section that pertains to Sunday alcohol sales. Bear with me just a minute. Basically, what the Sunday, we become a dry city on Sunday. Happened is Chambers County goes wet after lunch. After lunch, Heard County, and we are so we have an opportunity to allow let's have some discussion about it.
What is partially with?
Are there any figures to show? Would mean for the city?
There's really, because it's never been done, we don't, and I might have missed somebody if I did. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16 that I know of, 16 businesses that sell alcoholic beverages.
Does that include restaurants or just stores?
It does, no, it includes restaurants, as well. Currently has a hang-up with their business license, so really it's 15. So hopefully, that's gonna be corrected. But yes, it would be an increase. Yes.
From a business perspective, crossing the state lines and, county lines would keep it here at home.
I talked with some of the businesses, I didn't talk with all of them, I just couldn't get around to, pretty much in favor of it, and talk about how much it would increase not only food, drink, Cokes, candy, potato chips. I did manage to get that done.
And I could see us increasing up the portion opening, without the liquor, just the beer and wines and stuff. I think that would be it. Go across the line again, and they go there and they eat. They win.
May I say something then? If you're gonna do beer and wine, you might as well do it all.
I understand.
Probably for the restaurants' benefits, is because I would. Something with a meal. And then you've also got the option here, just because you restrict the time. I got a copy of the ordinance, the city clerk. They don't have a time restriction. In other words, it's Sunday to 6, 2 to 6, 2 to 8. So,
In the morning,
yes.
Some of the places, they don't start till after 12.
They don't, that's true. That's right.
They don't start
Exactly.
till after 12.
May I say, where the hours, I don't care how many hours. We used to have, and some of you maybe as old as I am, I very well remember blue law. There was no get it,
I remember that.
and we made it just fine. There was an emergency number, I do remember, because occasionally, being a child, we would be sick. Because back then, there was no urgent care, so we had to go to ER. Or go see. But we had a number that we could call, and that pharmacist, I think they wrote for the sick child or sick adult or whatever. But we made it. I think we can do just fine without it on Sunday. I don't think it's in our revenue.
Contrary coming from me, but I like all of the cards on the table. And I remember that time, but we're also talking about a time when the county was. And I'm not saying that I'm in favor of alcohol sales, but I just want funding, but we were dry at that time.
That time too, but then they did close that. But when you say everything closed, everything closed. Everything runs 24/7 all the time. In the time frame of life when we make a difference there because we had no other choice. You know, because a new time, we in a new life. Nothing closed. Nothing.
But some things are left. We've gotta have something there's gotta be something. I mean, it's the way of the world, and I know it. Some things are better left alone.
We don't, no disrespect or anything, but the ones who wanna buy it will buy it, and the ones.
But I'm just saying, in this county, for a particular time, Heard County, Chambers does it for of hours. How's that gonna make up enough revenue in this? Big grocery money you're taking from a child's mouth, or school lunches. Things are better left the way they are. That's just my opinion.
But if it's gonna be taken regardless, because if they want that bill, if they want it, and they know they ain't got but $40, either spend it on the child or the food. They gonna take $10 and go to Georgia with gas and buy the rest.
I might have done a bad job explaining that. It's not the short period. PM to whatever time, this one says 8. When you can't buy it, that's when you cannot.
I know, but what was it? You
Lunch to
lunch till
2 a.m.
2 a.m. or whatever.
Because I see both sides. And for the people who are listening, this is why you have my response to your remark, for me personally, sacredness, alcohol is sold here. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not buy it, and who would prefer to spend their money locally if they. Let's be honest. And I understand that. I understand fully. But I'm just saying, until we put all the cards on the table, and sometimes our personal convictions, understood that our personal opinion, everybody. I'm up in the wherever they write it. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying. And when we talk about keeping up with computers, let's keep the old cell phone way. And it's losing money for the city. And
we not lose money for the city when we took to help the bottom line? That's the person who brought it, and I understand people do things that sometimes that's for the better.
Another store as well.
Line was.
The game, it's
Well,
fun.
we did. If it, correct?
Yeah.
Me, myself, in favor of it. But it ain't gonna make the big, you know, do anything, but
Three. Opinion. In my district.
put it on the table.
If we table,
I said, I think Tim.
Can I say something?
Hey,
Had it worked.
What was the week? I mean,
49.
All right. First. Liability. and was for two hundred. Including
Just
jump forward.